Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of the Right Has Left podcast. I am your host, Roy Garten, and thanks for coming along on this particular broadcast. We've got a lot to talk about, but first, before we get into anything and everything, let's talk some talking points. And first, we're going to talk about the State of the Union. Now, that is tomorrow, March 4th. And that is, of course, before the joint members of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives, as well as the Supreme Court justices also typically attend the State of the Union addresses. Quite interesting because the Supreme Court justices have got their plate full of lawsuits that has been filed against the Trump administration since he has taken office, many of those dealing with the violation of the Constitution of the United States. And even though many of those justices have been elected by Donald Trump, well, they also have to fulfill the Constitution. That's what they're there for. So we'll have to see what happens. Some other things that are popping up with Donald Trump is, of course, is tariffs again. As of midnight tonight, March 3rd, Donald Trump once again wants to put into place tariffs against Canada and Mexico. You know, Canada, the 51st state that Donald Trump wants to create. Well, he calls those tariffs bargaining chips, you know, and a lot of times he doesn't really put them into place. He calls them bluffs. You know, as you may remember, he put a 30-day hold on those tariffs, but once again, he wants to bring them up and put them into place because he doesn't think maybe they fulfilled what they should have done with the fulfilling patrol of the borders. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happened. Now, this guy is the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, and he said that he wanted to put some clarity on what actually has happened with those tariffs. He said, you know, you got to take what Trump says with a grain of salt. Canada and Mexico might have fulfilled their duties with fulfilling the Border Patrol situation, and Trump may, in fact, not put those tariffs into place. So, you know, he's done a really good job with those. So don't take everything that what Trump says as serious as what's going to happen with those. So we'll have to wait and see as far as what really goes on there. The other thing that's going on is with Doge. Now, Doge recently got caught with their pants down, if you want to really use that terminology, by the New York Times. They did an investigation, and Doge recently blew their horn and said how much money they saved and how much fraud they uncovered, especially with military spending, and that they have saved the U.S. taxpayers billions of dollars. Well, they were referring to a program that was put in place way back when Bush was president, and he actually, that program came to an end. But Doge went on to say that they uncovered a bunch of money that was there, and that they stopped those payments, and when in fact the program was stopped already, and the payments already had stopped as well. But they want to take credit for that. So that was kind of interesting. Another quick talking point I want to bring up is the U.S. House recently tried to, they actually got the bill through. It's through the Senate now, and they're going to make some changes. But they were talking about how with their recent new budget cuts, that they were not going to use anything to stop payments with Social Security, and that Medicare was going to continue to be in place, and Medicare was going to continue to be in place, and there wasn't one bit of language in there using the words Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, which in fact is true. What they did not tell you, again, going back to the Commerce Department, which oversees Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, they in fact were going to be faced with an $80 billion budget cut. And how are they going to, have cut those, cuts in place that they got to do with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? Well, when you're told you're going to make cuts, those are the programs that are probably going to be cut. So what they're trying to do is a little sleight of hand trick to the American people. They didn't use the words, but also the department oversees it. They got to do the cuts because they think the American people are stupid. When they don't see it in there, they can go around and say, well, they said they weren't going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It's not even in the budget. Well, it is in the budget. They just didn't use the words. They just gave it to the department that oversees it and told them to make the cuts. So they come out smelling like roses, And you can do the blame game. Well, the department did the cuts. We didn't. Now, of course, that's gone before the Senate, so we don't think they're going to make some changes, and we're back to square one again. One other bit of talking point before I get into the real crux of today's podcast is the backlash that happened when your congressional delegation, which is now, of course, coming back from breaks, did their town hall meetings, and they got a lot of backlash from their constituents back in their home states. People are upset. They were screaming at them. There has been nothing done with the economy. There has been nothing done to bring down lower food costs. There has been nothing done to, help the seniors and the veterans and anybody else. Because Trump has been on his rant with firing everybody with thousands of job losses, and that was another thing that their constituents are upset is they're out of work. Many of them are state and federal employees, and they no longer have jobs. And of course, Mike Johnson, the leader of the House, he was blaming the Democrats. Those are all Democratic plants that were at those town hall meetings. That they're the ones that are in there screaming and yelling. They were paid to be there and create a ruckus and for the media. Those aren't Republicans that are upset. Which is total BS. There's absolutely been nothing that has been uncovered that said that those were Democratic plans. People are literally pissed off because they put this guy into the White House and he has done absolutely zero anything, with the exception, as I mentioned, there has been some downward trend on border crossings, but that's really been about it. Other than that, he has lied about everything he said he was going to do so far. Besides cutting lots of jobs. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there now, won't we? Okay, now let's get into today's actual program. And what we're going to talk about today is, of course, Donald Trump's recent meeting with our good friend from Ukraine, Zelensky, who got blindsided at a recent media press conference. And who was at that press conference? Well, Russian media was at the press conference, and a right-wing talk show host was at that press conference, which I will talk about here briefly. And, of course, the vice president was also at that press conference. It was set up, folks. That was a set-up press conference, and you cannot tell me that it wasn't. That press conference was there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to bring embarrassment to Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, where Trump was saying that you got to make a deal, you got to make a deal, you got to make a deal, you got to make a deal with Putin because you invaded Russia, which is not true. Russia invaded Ukraine, and you need to give up some land, and we're going to help you out, and you got to pay back your bills to the United States. And so Zelensky wound up leaving early. He never had the luncheon, never had the signing ceremony. He got up and left because he was sick and tired of how he was blindsided. And I have a clip of that, so let's go ahead and roll that.
About just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him. A lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no
answering
position
on
to
this question.
dictate that.
That's exactly what
Remember
you're
this.
doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing
I'm very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What do you-
III.
what do you
You're
think
gambling
about?
with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States
are
of
you
America
speaking about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No.
Can
You've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we
coming
are
out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about we are
If
speaking?
you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I
Again,
tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that there,
thank you
except
to
that-
American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You
I'm-
don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
that
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with you.
a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Second question for President Zelensky.
No.
Do you ever? Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you do. You own a suit?
You have problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not
Really?
respecting.
I don't
the
have
dignity of
such.
this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like
maybe
this.
something like
Yes,
yours.
sir.
So as you could seen from that clip, it was just absolutely devastating for Zelensky. The guy tried to talk. He tried to say what was going on, and Trump made him out like he's a warmonger, that he liked war. He wanted to continue to have war. And since he has left, the entire world of who support Ukraine have come to his aid, with the exception of the United States. They're still trying to run him down. And basically what you saw here was a bunch of bullies trying to degrade Zelensky, including one other guy that I want to talk about was in that press conference, and it is this gentleman, Brian Glenn. Now, Brian Glenn is the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene, so that needs to tell you a lot. He's one of the hosts of Real America's far-right podcast show that they have, and he is a guy that told Zelensky, like, why are you not wearing a suit? And that is ridiculous. Why isn't Zelensky wearing a suit? Like, he has supposed to put on a three-piece suit when he goes to the White House to meet the president. Well, why doesn't Elon Musk wear a suit or a three-piece suit when he is in the Oval Office with the president? Does he have exceptions? Is there exceptions to the rule? Musk doesn't have to wear a suit, but Zelensky is supposed to wear a suit? I mean, what are we talking about here, folks? Why? Who's the goose and who's the gander? Where's the exception to the rules? Zelensky has to wear a suit, but Elon Musk does not have to wear a suit. So there you go. Again, this is just a sad state of affairs. You got Brian Glenn, who hangs out with Steve Bannon and other these far right-wing conspiracy theory people and does a talk show, and he makes an insulting mark like that. But he won't bring up Elon Musk, who hardly ever wears a suit in the Oval Office. But, that's different. One other thing that we need to talk about that has happened is the new pick for the FBI as an assistant. And this guy is that I want to bring up here. Let me find his picture here real quick. Brian, where are you? Dan, that's who it is. All right, this guy right here. Sorry, I had to go through and find all my images I have here. Dan Bianjo, he's a former U.S. Secret Service specialist, and he's also a right-wing podcaster now. He's retired from the U.S. Secret Service, but he's now the new Deputy FBI Director. That is correct. The new Director of the FBI. As we are fully aware, the FBI directors are usually former FBI people themselves. Well, with the Trump administration, that never happens. Yeah, you've got the new director now that's in there, and then the assistant director is going to be another podcaster. You have a lot of people in the cabinet right now that have zero experience at anything to do with running the government. And other than this guy does have some Secret Service, background, which may work. I don't know, but these people have all done favors for Donald Trump and now sit in these positions. From Florida, we got Pam Bondi and we've got Mark Rubio. And Mark's not too bad. I got to give him some credit. But and Pam Bondi, she was a snowflake here in Florida, and she's going to be about the same thing there in the White House. These folks are all just hiding kissers to Donald Trump. And this is the first time I've ever seen a cabinet made up of people that have zero to no experience in the positions that they've been put into. And it's kind of scary. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I am Roy Garten, with the host of The Right Has Left. And absorb all this, enjoy the State of the Union address, and I'll be back next week with another podcast. Until then, you try to have a great week.